We are live back with another edition of Your Wildest Fantasy Football Show,
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday edition, if I did not
It
say
is a
that
Tuesday.
already. We have kind of wacky waivers today since there are still 2 games to go.
Right.
If you did not know, with the protocols, there are 2 games tonight, the Seahawks and the Rams, and then I was hoping you would help me out there because I think I just
Oh,
had a
sorry.
brain
I
fart and
thought
forgot the other
it's
one.
Washington, Philly.
Washington, Philly.
I thought you were doing one of
So,
those long pauses. I was very confused. I said, "This is
yeah,
longer than
I
normal."
was kind of just reeling, hoping that would work out. But 2 games tonight. So, waivers are actually going to take place tomorrow. You'll put your claims in tomorrow and then get your guys on Thursday, just in time for the Thursday night game between the Niners and the Titans. So, today we are going to break down who is out there on waivers so far.
Mhm.
We actually talked about this a little bit before the show. I think that there's a lot of guys out there. You do not think there's as many. So I guess we'll see where
Right.
our disagreements are there. There's
I
also what was that?
I think my thing for like just not there not being a lot of guys out here is just because um, for most standard leagues you have this week and then next week and that's it. As far as the playoffs go, um, and I don't think there was a lot of people who are gonna like need a whole bunch of depth anymore. And I feel like there's a lot of like I don't think there's a whole lot of guys on waivers who are gonna make like a huge splash into a playoff team. So it's gonna be so that's where I was like, there's not a whole lot of guys on waivers who like for my playoff teams,
Mhm.
I'm gonna actively go out again unless I had some crazy
Yeah.
misfortune.
There's still people battling to I mean, try to keep out from the bottom spot. I know a lot of punishments in leagues too. There's a lot of people who are dealing with some of the injuries and COVID stuff that we
Right.
are going to cover today as well. A lot of guys that are kind of uncertain for this week. I think
Mhm.
that's part of week what creates the opportunity for a lot of these guys that we will talk about in waivers today. But first off, let's start with those notable injuries and COVID. Uh, biggest one is probably Chris Godwin, torn ACL,
Yep.
out for the season, was a low hit and didn't really look good at all. One of the, I guess, positives of this very unfortunate injury is that AB is expected to be back this week. He's going to start practicing again, back from suspension. A lot of injuries with the Bucks, though. Mike Evans, strained hamstring. I think Leonard Fournette, also a strained hamstring. They say Fournette could miss a game or two. They don't expect, or they're not sure if Mike Evans is going to miss any time,
Right.
but definitely some things to monitor. Now, I'm obviously like these are 3 big name guys in fantasy. And I think
Right.
it does, if Mike Evans doesn't play, I think it does affect Tom Brady,
Hmm.
but I also don't think you're sitting Tom Brady.
So if Fournette is out, because it looks like Fournette is going to miss time, Godwin, we already said, is going to be out no matter what. Antonio Brown has a chance to come back, and Mike Evans um, could play. They aren't ruling him out yet, but they haven't came out and said Mike Evans is going to play.
Yeah,
So
it's a little like mixed as far
yeah,
as
the
that goes.
terminology
We've heard
that
like
they're
week to week, and then we've heard, oh, he's gonna play.
so the terminology they're using isn't hopeful for Tom Brady, um, who we both can agree is not going to get you a whole lot of fantasy points with his legs like other quarterbacks can.
Mm.
He will still have Gronk, which is helpful because we know that him and Gronk have a great connection. But the problem is that when you don't have anyone else on the roster who you've been used to all year, i.e., Fournette, Godwin, potential Evans, and Antonio Brown's not even a give me yet. So it's going to be an interesting one because Tom Brady obviously can make stuff happen with very little pieces. But I'm not sure who those pieces are going to be next week. It is Carolina. So again, it's going to be a weird game for Tom, especially since he's going to be missing his star running back and star wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, you don't feel great about it, obviously, when you lose 2 of your top receivers. I think if AB is back, which if we're assuming from what things look like now, it looks like he's going to be, I think that does help a lot. But you're obviously downgrading Brady, but I don't think it's to the point, especially against a Panthers team that hasn't looked great, I think, to say the least, in recent memory. You're still feeling fine about it and putting him out there. I think that he's still good to be a safe quarterback option for you. I'm not expecting another dud like this because it seems like it's only, I think he put up decent fantasy numbers the last time he played New Orleans, but he didn't necessarily play great in that game either. He had 3 turnovers in that one. So
New Orleans had 25.2 fantasy points, 375 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble, and he still had 25.2.
This New Orleans team just, I think for the last 2 years has had just Brady's number, it seems, and the Bucs
That's
number.
having Brady's number? Is
New
letting a
Orleans.
guy throw for almost 300 yards? Or 400 yards?
They lost, and he had 3 turnovers. He's had 5 turnovers in 2 games against them this year. I think, what did they do? I think he's 1-3 against them since he's been in the division. So, like,
yeah, but for fantasy football purposes, I mean,
well, yeah, I mean, I think
it's okay
fantasy-wise, he had a good. There's no disputing that you're happy with 25 points, but I mean, it's not like he played his best game. Like, I think that's pretty easy to say. So, I feel better with Brady against anybody other than New Orleans because it just seems like a team that has his number as far as in the win column, certainly, and the defense being able to confuse him and get to him and get him to turn the ball over. Going on to other injuries, A.J. Brown is expected to be activated off of IR. This comes only a week after Julio hurt his hamstring again, and we don't really know what that situation is, but I don't think anybody really has the patience at this point with Julio in fantasy anymore. It's just gotten to the point where he's being hurt. Kind of like the Sterling Shepard thing, where it just happens too much, and it's like, okay, now we just are kind of tired of it. So I would say you could probably drop Julio Jones, and I'm cautiously excited for A.J. Brown to be back as a fantasy manager, not as a Colts fan.
Yeah, I mean, A.J. Brown is a special up-and-coming talent. He's kind of a boom-bust guy in my mind, though. I mean, just as of this year, seeing him go off kind of every other game, 16, 27, 31, and then just following it up front and back with single-digit performances. It's going to be interesting to see. I'm not sure what I expect from him, though. I mean, playing San Francisco this week, I don't know how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, San Francisco defense has been very good of late. This Tennessee offense has not been.
Nope.
They lost what? 2 of their last 3. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm looking at AJ Brown's numbers, and he's had he's obviously been out for the last few weeks, and I just can't process the information that's in front of me.
Oh, sorry. You If you're talking about the Titans as of late have struggled. I mean, lost to the Steelers, blew out the Jags, lost to the Patriots, lost to Texans.
Through their last 4, even.
Right. But then they beat the Saints, the Rams, the Colts, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Jags again, and the
Yeah.
Jets beat them earlier on. But then they beat the Colts again.
Yeah.
Beat the Seahawks. Like
Well,
late,
yeah,
they look
but that's
bad.
going back to the whole season when they were like they had Derrick Henry and stuff like that when that
Right.
offense was really churning around. I mean,
Right.
I'm not saying that they've been as in rough shape ever since they lost Derrick Henry, but injuries have certainly taken their toll on that team.
When did we lose Derrick Henry? We lost Derrick Henry week 9 against the Rams.
Week 9. So
That's
in
tough.
that stretch, what are they? They're 2-3.
Yeah, 2 and 3. It's tough. I mean,
But yeah, I mean AJ Brown. Getting back to like the point at hand, just
yeah,
it seems like it's got to click eventually. The targets are there, the talent is there, the injuries have certainly, unfortunately, been there, which has probably been the main derailment with him. But I feel like he's got to be somebody that is going to be one of those players going into next week that a lot of people are going to be like, do I put this guy out there or do I not? And it's going to be a risky one just because, number one, of how the Titans offense has looked. Number two, like you said, there's really nobody else there to take the attention away from him.
right. First time that he's going to have to deal with that.
So,
I mean,
and then number three, it's not like the best matchup in the world either.
no. Week 10 and 11, AJ Brown was healthy. Derrick Henry was out. Against New Orleans, the game the Titans won, he had 4 targets, 1 reception, got you 3 points. Against Houston, the game they lost, he had 9 targets, 5 receptions, got you 9.8 fantasy points, full point PPR. And then the game that they lost in week 9 when they were losing Derrick Henry, he got 9.2. So I don't know how I feel about him. He's not a guy who I feel like is a must start, which is weird because I really like him as a player. And I mean, he has a lot of talent. It's just that with the circumstances surrounding the year, he's a guy that I just kind of lost a lot of faith in just because of how the team has kind of fallen apart around him.
And it's weird because I don't know that having an injury mid-game is something that's going to follow you. Like that's something that's going to happen consistently.
Right.
But he's had 2 or 3 games this year where he's just been hurt in the middle of the game or early in the game and then missed a good chunk of it. And that kind of stuff, I think as a fantasy football player, just sticks with you a little bit. And you're like, I don't want to risk, even with what happened to Julio last week, with what happened to Sterling Shepard fairly consistently this year, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I don't want to risk putting a guy out there that might get hurt in the first quarter and just not come back and play.
Yeah, I mean,
especially now.
It's playoff time. I get it if you're like trying to find the most upside for a guy. AJ Brown has a huge upside. No one else on that team is really like a bona fide stud like he is. So he deserves to get a lot of targets. So I understand the upside of him, but you're playing San Francisco, tough matchup. And this is the first game he's going to be able to come back. It's going to be tough for him. Week 17 against Miami, I feel a little bit better just because if he is able to stay healthy for this game, Miami could just be a great stepping stone for him.
Great. Other big news, Lamar hopefully will practice Wednesday. At least that is what Coach Harbaugh says out of Baltimore. We talked about Lamar. I think if you have him, you're starting him. And if you started Tyler Huntley last week, congrats. But we talked about it a little bit with just in concerns of his inconsistency that he already had when he was healthy. And now, if there's any concern of an ankle injury that could limit his mobility a bit, that also is going to pile on top of the inconsistency that we were already worried about.
Right. I mean, I feel like if the Ravens are smart, they just keep Huntley at quarterback, put Lamar in as running back. Um, Tyler Huntley just looked fantastic out there. 215, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, no turnovers, really. Ran for 2 himself on the ground. I mean, 13 attempts on the ground. You kind of, for some reason, Ravens kind of have this build that they look for in the quarterback position, and it's someone who is going to run the ball more than their running backs are. Um, it's helpful for fantasy managers just to know that, hey, I can start this guy. He's going to throw the ball once or twice, and then he's going to take off and run it 13 times for me every game, potentially.
I mean, in the full games he's played, he's thrown it over 35 times a game.
Tyler Huntley or Lamar?
Tyler Huntley.
Great. He also was pretty sure the second highest scoring fantasy option this week. I'm not taking anything away from him. I'm saying keep him in as quarterback. But Lamar is running.
I'm saying as far as the passing opportunities, they are there. They play Cincinnati next week. Cincinnati is like a weird team. I feel like that defense shows up sometimes. Other times they can be beat. Mm-hmm. Divisional game scares me a little bit as far as like this might just be a trope in my head, but divisional games seem to be lower scoring to me. I get that feel with a lot, and that's kind of like a feel I get with this game in particular. But I'm not going to tell you don't start Tyler Huntley or Lamar Jackson off of that game. Like, I think when we were talking about our concern for Lamar Jackson, it was more off of in comparison to where other people had him, which was as a top like 4 quarterback option. And I don't think either of us would have him in that conversation. But if you have him, you're starting him if he's playing.
Yeah, I mean, the first meeting that these guys had this season, it was 41-17 in favor of the Bengals. Coincidentally, though, this was one of the 3 games that Lamar did not have a turnover, was against Cincinnati. Out of the 12 games he played so far, granted he got hurt in the Cleveland game, so I don't really want to count it, but I'll count it for sake of argument as one of the 3 games he didn't have a turnover. But Cincinnati, last time they did play, no turnover. So every other team but Denver and Cleveland for like the 3 plays he played. So this is going to be the best week for Lamar that you can possibly hope for.
Breaking news for tonight's game, before I forget it.
Don't forget it.
It's looking unlikely. I misread that on my phone. So not as breaking of news. It's looking unlikely that Tyler I just ignored the word unlikely.
You did.
Wholeheartedly at the time. I said it's looking that Tyler Lockett will be activated off of. It's looking unlikely that he will be activated off of the COVID list in time for tonight's game. So no Tyler Lockett. Hopefully that means DK season. We'll see. Still looking at that DK big game, even though like we've talked about that, the target volume's been there for him.
Yeah, I mean, I hope he can, capitalize this week. It's the Rams. I feel like it's going to be a pass-happy game. For the Seahawks, at least, I feel like the Rams have the superior squad just because you have Cooper Kupp, bona fide stud. You have OBJ, fantastic, either star wide receiver and the best second man you could hope for in the league. You have Darrell Henderson, who's looking great back there. I mean, the team is probably going to be up, and I think that's only going to help DK try to get some more targets and looks. I mean, apparently 8's not enough for DK some weeks, so hopefully this week if Tyler Lockett out, they might bump him up to 12 or 13, and he'll have a good week for you.
Yeah, it's starting to get into scary season for DK. If he can't do something today, even though it is a tough matchup, it's just been so long since he's been able to do something that it's like, all right, we need this to happen. So
yeah, all the way back to week 8.
Yeah, hoping the best for DK. Last thing on the injury COVID front, Travis Kelce placed on the COVID list. Also, Austin Eckler, I don't even know I'm very confused with that. He was the first guy that they were like worried about and was expected to be placed on the COVID list. And then he didn't practice on Monday, but he wasn't on the COVID list. So I really don't know what to tell you there. But
Yeah, it said they were going to put him on the list, is what the report said. They said we're going to put him on the list, but we decided not to. I'm not sure the legality of that, just
no,
because if people off of trace contact are being sat and put on the list, I feel like the guy who like started the whole scare for the team
I don't know.
should
Did he
probably
start it?
he
I don't
had
know if
to.
that's true.
I'm pretty sure he was like the first guy that they were like,
I don't
hey,
know.
this guy's coughing.
I don't want to put that out there. That's not true. I feel like that could be a sketchy
I,
thing to just say off the cuff.
I don't know. I've just read it. Online
Okay.
news never lies to you.
Just throw super spreader on
Is
Eckler.
it because you have Austin Eckler
Well, I
that
don't
you're
want.
like still
I don't
like
want to
willing to
throw.
defend him?
No, I don't want to
Because
throw the COVID super spreader on anybody. That seems
I'm
like
not
a
saying
little.
he was the spreader. I'm just saying he was like,
Well, you
from
said he
what
was
I
the
read
root
online,
of the thing that kind of started the
he was
COVID
the
spread for
first.
the whole
He was
team.
the first person that I heard's name said
Okay.
for the Chargers. So yes, he would be the guy who would
Well,
be
I
the
don't know
first.
if just because he was the first name reported, that means
Mhm.
he gave everyone else on the team.
I'm not saying he gave everyone else it. I'm just saying he was the first name I heard. So they like to keep him off just because you have a game. Seems a little
Well,
unethical.
yeah, I also unbiased. I do have Austin Eckler in one league. Unbiased. It does seem kind of wild, and maybe teams around the league are saying, "Oh, like maybe I just don't have to put anybody on the COVID list." If it is true that they were expected to put him on the list, then just chose not to. Tody's come back. But yeah, it's a weird situation. I don't think either of us can say what to do there if you have Austin Eckler. I certainly don't know. So I think you can just try to stay in tune with the reports as they come in.
Right. They said that they won't tell us till Wednesday. Any more news for it? They said that Wednesday when they release the Week 16 injury report, they're going to put what excuse they put down for Austin Eckler to miss class.
Well, that's also the thing. They say he didn't practice Monday, but because they have a Thursday game, so they might have something on Monday. But
well, they
I don't
play.
know.
I mean,
I didn't
they
feel
play.
like teams normally practiced on Mondays.
I think they do because they play Sunday against the Texans.
But normally, teams don't start practicing until Wednesday, right?
I don't know. Kind of. I
have no idea. Okay.
As the
That
owner,
seems like something we should educate ourselves on.
Right. I mean, as the owner,
I'll make a sticky note for that one. But there are a lot of injuries out there that I don't think we even touched on today. Obviously, we mentioned Sterling Shepard. Elijah Mitchell, they say it's trending in the right direction for him to play Thursday. Joe Mixon had an ankle injury. He's expected to be limited to start the week. Waller, he's been out longer than expected. Kareem Hunt, not sure how that's going to go. Swift, is he going to come back? Julio, we mentioned with the hamstring.
right.
So, and there's probably more that I didn't even mention right there. And that's what kind of, I think, kicks off our waiver discussion. And I think there's some names out here that are going to be valuable, both to playoff teams and then teams, like we said, just trying to not finish in last, or teams that are incentivized to just keep winning. So I want to start with you and the quarterbacks, if there are any.
It's not like. I mean, I guess I can say one. It's going to be Jimmy G. I mean, I was a little wrong with this guy this week. I mean, I'll admit it. 13.8, only one touchdown, was not the performance I thought that he'd have against Atlanta. But I mean, Tennessee, I think it's going to be a different one, especially depending on how Elijah Mitchell, that whole situation plays out. I mean, if they don't have their star running back there, I feel like it's going to be a little bit more pass happy. I don't know who else I'm really loving this week. That's my problem. I mean, if Lamar doesn't play, Tyler Huntley, that's a gimme, I guess. But it all depends if Lamar doesn't play. So it's like not like a go get him and forget him sort of situation back there.
One of my questions with that is if you have Lamar and chose to go a different direction at quarterback this past week and for some reason are just, I don't know, you still have a chance to do something and have not decided to just give up fantasy football because of that tough decision.
Right.
Would you pick up Tyler Huntley on waivers just so that if Lamar couldn't go, you had Huntley?
If you played another quarterback not named Lamar Jackson and you had Lamar, then I would drop whatever quarterback that you had played for Tyler Huntley.
Okay.
I know that there's certain people like you in the league we're in together, you have your bench kind of set and you don't want to switch it. So you wouldn't be dropping Lamar for Tyler Huntley and you wouldn't be dropping
Agreed.
Like a couple quarterbacks really for Tyler Huntley. But if you're streaming quarterbacks and Tyler Huntley's out there, get Tyler Huntley if you have Lamar.
I think it's an interesting insurance policy. I mean, who do they play this week? They play Cincinnati. We just talked about that. So I would be fine if you have Lamar Jackson and you have end of your bench wide receiver that you want to drop just so in case Lamar doesn't play, you have Tyler Huntley. I'm fine with that. I think that's an okay move. Depending on where you are on waivers and how many of these guys that we'll talk about mainly in the running back section of the show, but although there are some really good receivers too, depending on how many of them are out there, I don't know that I would prioritize that first because with the encouraging news that Lamar, they're hopeful, is going to practice on Wednesday.
Right.
I don't think he's going to be a top priority for many, but to be safe, that could be an option that you look towards. Now, the running back discussion, I'd hope we have a lot of the same people because I have 5 running backs that I think are worth checking out. And I would say it's more of a tiered kind of thing.
Okay.
With 2 guys as, I would say, my top tier guys, and then 2 guys as 2 or 3 guys, I would say, as the next tier. I would probably say 2, and then the last one is last. But 1A, I would say, is Ronald Jones. With Fournette expected to miss time, Ronald Jones steps into, I would say, the most favorable of positions, like the most favorable offense of these running backs that we're going to list.
Right.
And also doesn't have that bad of a schedule. Obviously, we talked about Carolina, and then they play the Jets. So pretty good matchups. And even in Week 18, they play Carolina again. Carolina, as we mentioned, I don't know that their defense has been that bad, but they just turn the ball over and kind of set up the offense in a good position. And also when you're playing a Tampa Bay-led offense that prides themselves on throwing the ball, I get that there's not as many weapons there, but I still think you have to respect Tom Brady and that Bucs team's ability to toss the ball around. So I think that the run is going to come secondary, and it kind of creates a chance for Ronald Jones. And also, not to mention that Sean Vaughn did not look great, and he's going to get receiving like chances too. I mean, you saw Leonard Fournette, how involved he was in the pass catching game. I mean, he had like 5 catches before he came out of that game.
Playoff Lenny, baby. They don't call him Playoff Lenny for no reason. Yes, he had 7 before he said and done.
Yeah.
My laptop sounds like it wants to blow up right now.
So Ronald Jones is my first one. And then I would probably go Craig Reynolds. I think we talked about Craig Reynolds. We talked about how the name, you're skeptic because there's not many Craigs that are running the ball as well as Craig Reynolds.
That is very true.
And you saw this Detroit Lions team. They won one game. Well, now they've doubled that. They've won double as many games as they'd won the week prior. And looking at their schedule, they have Atlanta and then Seattle in the next 2 weeks. Those, I think, are winnable games for the Lions, which is kind of nuts that they could just go rip 4 in a row real quick. And then they play Green Bay and will get destroyed. But it's a good chance for him, and he's been super productive. I mean, you see 7.5 yards per carry in the first game against Denver, which is a good defense, and then 4.3 against the Cardinals with 26 attempts. Over 80 yards in both games. Has a couple catches, nothing too big. Doesn't have a touchdown yet, but I'm not too worried about that. I mean, touchdown's going to come. Touchdown's going to come. But he's a rest of season guy who's going to help you, I think, for sure the next 2 weeks. And guy that I probably feel decent about starting in like my flex.
Yeah, I like Craig Reynolds. Yeah, he had a much better real game than he did fantasy game. Just because he wasn't able to capitalize it with any touchdowns. I mean, that game was so weird. I'm just going to be honest. That game was Arizona should have wiped the floor of them, but, like we've kind of been saying, Dan Campbell might be the best coach this year. Should get coach of the year for doing the most with the least amount of talent, i.e., perfect example, Craig Reynolds, coming out here running for over 100 yards on one of the best teams of football.
Did you see the Dan Campbell post-game speech?
No. Was it motivational?
It was wonderful. I
have no doubt.
I do love my team, particularly right now, although sometimes it doesn't seem like it. It's kind of like a hard exterior and like a soft on the inside kind of thing. I would say that's how I feel about my team. But that kind of content, that Dan Campbell content, makes me wish that I was a fan of a 2-11-1 team, which I never thought that I would say in my life.
Yeah, I mean, Dan Campbell makes people want to run through walls for him. Absolute man.
Like kneecaps.
Amen.
Next tier of running backs, I think you can make an argument for Justin Jackson over Craig Reynolds, but we don't really know the status of Austin Eckler at all. So that's kind of what puts him down in the second tier of guys. I mean, he ran really well. Josh Kelly's been kind of inconsistent in his 2 years in the league so far. I think Justin Jackson looks like the primary guy. He got, 60% of the snaps in comparison to Josh Kelly's 16, and that was with Eckler playing pretty hurt, but playing. So I like Josh Jackson as the primary guy for the Chargers this week in a really good matchup against Houston. And then after that, he might be a little low for you. I'm not sure. I was expecting a lot of this to cause a lot of controversy, but Duke Johnson is coming in as my number 4 guy. I like Duke Johnson. Like, if you look, he was super explosive out there. Like, he looked explosive, and obviously we know that. We know that the quickness is there. But he looked like really good. He was small, shifty, kind of worked his way, let his line do what they needed to do, and then worked and burst through the hole when it was there. He just looked good. And I get that there's other guys there, but they haven't had this kind of production from the running back position so far, this year consistently. Now he's only done it for 1 game, so we'll see what happens. There's a couple things that concern me with Duke Johnson, that being there's I think 6 guys there. Now they're not all healthy, obviously, but I think Gaskin's still going to be involved. I think Ahmed's still going to be involved. Phil Lindsay might even still be involved. So like, there's a lot of guys back here, and then the matchups they play New Orleans, Tennessee, and New England for the rest of the year. So that's a little concerning as well. Gaskin and Ahmed like just got taken off the COVID list right before the game. So there's definitely some things to temper your expectations with Duke Johnson, but there's a lot to be excited about as well. And I think worth kind of taking a flyer on, hoping that, like you said, I think it's a risky one just with how little left of the season there is. But I think there's also a lot of bench spots that are kind of need to be filled. And this could be an upside guy that go into maybe the Tennessee game could be out there for you depending on how injuries and stuff shake out. And then,
yeah, for Duke Johnson, I mean, I love Duke Johnson. If you don't know the story,
that you do.
If you don't know the story, I picked up Duke Johnson. I believe it was my first year playing in the league, Hondo, Owens, and Fandangles here.
I do love Fandango.
Exactly. It was a nice word. And I think I picked up Duke Johnson maybe 75 times. I don't know. Might be an exaggeration, but I remember picking him up at like 4 a.m. and then dropping him at like 4:30 and then picking him back up at 6:00 in the morning one time. Not this year, but for sure I played. Duke Johnson, love the guy. Could be good, but there's a lot of circumstances that kind of led to him having the bigger, better day. He ran really well, but it's the Jets. I've said this all year. I said anyone, healthy or not, can run against the Jets. Perfect example, Kamara, looking really good against the Jets. People are like, oh man, absolute on fire. This could be the second coming of Jose Gonzalez. And then against a decent team like Tampa Bay.
A decent team. Tampa Bay is one of the best run defense in football.
Win 11 for 18. So, brings you back down to earth when you play teams not the Jets. So I'm taking it with a grain of salt. I love Duke Johnson. Interesting guy to pick up. But again, there's so many people in that backfield. Gaskin kind of has the control back there. I mean, Duke Johnson ran better, but we've seen it countless times this year where someone has run better than the starter. And then the next week, the starter just gets the reins back.
See, I agree. Like with what you said to finish that off, I just don't know. I like Myles Gaskin, but I don't know that the Dolphins do. Like we saw early in the year, just kind of the inconsistency for touches and them looking to get other people involved, and nobody really took a grasp of that. So I could see them with Duke Johnson just looking good, even if it is against the Jets, that they could say, hey, we want to get this guy involved. Like we want to spread the touches in the backfield. Now, the thing about that's the problem, I think, is now it makes it pretty hard to start either of them next week, especially against New Orleans. But it could be a speculative ad going into the Tennessee week of if Duke Johnson continues to get 60% of the touches or 50% of the touches, he could be a potential flex option that could win you your league, or I don't know. Do whatever you need him to do.
I mean, this isn't the Myles Gaskin part of this supposed to be Duke Johnson, but I will state a fact or two for Myles Gaskin. Since week 7 on, he has not had less than 12 rushing attempts. From week 5, when he played Tampa Bay, he had 5 rushes for 25 yards, which is better than Kamara, if anyone cared to know, statistically wise. And he also finished the day with 31.9 fantasy points against Tampa Bay, which kind of just said it's the best run defense in the league, apparently. So,
I mean, he did have a lot of it in receptions. And he had 2 touchdowns.
Great.
But
And
yes,
he's
I get your point. Myles
but
Gaskin is better than Alvin Kamara. But I say that. Now, I don't know that the Dolphins say that. I'm not arguing about Myles Gaskin. I'm arguing more about like the team's view of him. That's kind of like what worries me here. Going on to the last running back in this conversation, at least for me, it's going to be Jeff Wilson Jr. This was before the Elijah Mitchell news came out. I still think that luckily we have a day to kind of see where that injury goes. And if he is not going to, if it doesn't look as good for Elijah Mitchell as it did today, because we know that the 49ers are one of the teams that I don't think you can trust in anything that they say. So
right.
I'm not sure that I'm taking that he's looking okay as encouraging as they may lead it on to think. So I would still have some interest in Jeff Wilson Jr. and hopefully we get a little bit of clarity more in that tomorrow.
Right. Jeff Wilson Jr. was one of my guys just because the games he does play, minus the game against Minnesota, the 4 other games, he's had double-digit rushing attempts. Besides Elijah Mitchell, the most by anyone else. He had a really good day. I mean, Elijah Mitchell has a knee/concussion. Concussion could potentially keep you out for longer than the knee can. So that's what kind of worries me for Elijah Mitchell. Kind of why I also like Jeff Wilson a lot. And we saw Debo and Kyle Juszczyk, or whatever his last name is, both steal a touchdown from Jeff Wilson this week. So he still got you 0.1 points shy or something like that of a 20-point game. And that was when he wasn't the main starter and he had 2 touchdowns stolen from him. So I like him a lot, especially because I think Mitchell is going to miss this next week just because of the concussion, not because of the knee. I just think that player safety is a thing that people should consider, and concussions are a real issue.
Yeah, I mean, I like Jeff Wilson.
Mhm.
The concern for me always is just how they use their running backs and like in the past, especially too, and how they've been using Debo.
Mhm.
I just don't know. I
I
mean,
mean, he had
he
2
hasn't
targets as
gotten
a
double
backfield.
digits in any other game this year.
Mhm.
And he's been the starter back there for a few. So I'm slightly worried about that, but I don't know. I mean, I think it's worth taking a
What
chance
game
on
was
him,
he
but
the
there's a reason
starter?
that he's my lower guy.
What game was he the starter for? Because he's been out snapped and more, and Elijah Mitchell has out ran him every single time. I don't know if he has been
I
the
mean,
starter
last week,
against Atlanta or Cincinnati,
the last 2 weeks, he started.
but Elijah Mitchell got the bulk of the work. Didn't he?
Not in week. Elijah Mitchell played 0 snaps in week 14.
Who am I thinking of then?
He also played 0 in week 10, 11, week 11. Jeff Wilson put up 6.8.
I just like Jeff Wilson.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Did you say
I can't argue against that.
Yeah. I mean, it was the Rams and Jacksonville, so, you know.
I can't argue. If you just like a guy, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I can't argue against that. There's going to be guys that I just like. And
Najee
sometimes
Harris.
that's going to work out and sometimes it's not. But I like him.
That is true.
Do you have any other running back pickups for us this week?
I mean, Craig. Just really Craig was the big guy. Not sure how the whole situation is going to unfold back there. I do have Williams in a couple leagues, so, you know, am kind of hoping for Jamal Williams to be healthy. But if not, Craig was a touchdown away from, you know, a 20-point week, and he looked really good against Arizona. Arizona very tough competition, tougher than Atlanta and Seattle are going to be. So I like him if Williams and is going to be out.
Williams and Swift, I think, is the. It's kind of a quiet situation. It's been over there, so we will see how those guys. And even with Williams back, I think he could still feature fairly heavily. Like we saw that they like to use 2 running backs, but
Right.
I still think that he would get some opportunities and maybe even be the number 1 just with how he's been the hot hand of late.
Right.
And obviously Williams coming back from injury. So if they want to take it easy, they very well have every excuse to because of how well he's been playing. I think honorable mentions, there are a couple guys to mention here as well. J.D. McKissick is rostered in 46.8% of leagues, someone to look at. Hilliard is out there in 65%, had a solid game.
Foreman could potentially miss a little bit of time. So
yeah,
Hilliard is an interesting guy for sure.
Foreman injury. And I think a lot of the talk here too are the handcuffs, and there aren't many handcuffs out there anymore. McKissick, I think, is one of them. Tevin Coleman gets some work. Like if you're in a deep league, he could be an end of the bench guy. Devontae Booker is someone that I think is interesting, and I've been talking about for a while. So those are some other running backs to look at.
Right.
Going into wide receivers, I just have 2 real quick to start off the conversation. And I don't care which one you put first, really. I think that the argument for either is fine. I'm going to go AJ Green. A little cautious. Like I said, I don't want to say that I would go AJ Green first, but I probably would. I just don't like to say it. So I'm going to go AJ Green as my top wide receiver waiver pickup, I think, even though I'm not going to say that I am. AJ Green, I mean, he plays for Arizona. He's number 1, I think, target guy there. Like pretty consistently getting top target or a decent amount of targets every week. So I think he's had 8 plus in
2 games. The last
2
games, he had 8 plus.
He had over the last span of the season. What does he have? He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games with 6 or more targets. So that makes me feel pretty good about like just a little bit of a floor there for his targets. And he's not a guy that's like going to get you 6 for like 50 often. Like in this last game, he got you 4 for 64, which isn't like an awesome game, but he plays on the Cardinals. I think that he's like their big option. Zach Ertz kind of takes away some of the red zone potential because he's also a big option in the red zone. But I still like AJ Green as a receiver to look at. And then obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think he's going to be the obvious choice for a lot of people. I maybe falsely, because of the result of last game, have a little bit more trust in the Arizona offense. But Amon-Ra, like if you're going Amon-Ra over AJ Green, I can't fault you. Amon-Ra is a sun god. So I think having just a god on your team is never necessarily a bad thing.
Correct.
And he's got 10 catches, 8 catches, 8 catches, has double-digit targets in the last 3, and averaging over 15 points a game. So,
yeah. I mean, Amon-Ra, the sun god, was my number 1 pickup over everyone else by kind of a little bit, just because of how Detroit has been playing as of late. I mean, last 3 games they have either almost won, tied, or won against decent teams. And I mean, Arizona was one of the best teams that you could have possibly beaten, and he put up 23 points for you in full point leagues. So yeah, St. Brown, my number 1. I don't mind AJ Green. I like AJ Green. He's especially with D Hop out, could definitely be very good for you. A guy who I think I talked about last week and who also did miraculously well was Russell Gage. I liked him last week, and he put up a 20-point bomb for you. He is rostered in just over the 50% of leagues, but it's kind of close where you might be able to get him. Really liked him. I kind of also want to go with Callaway here. Like I do and I don't. 6 for 9, 112 yards against Tampa Bay. He has Miami and Carolina coming up. There's just something about it that I'm like, if I'm going to be wrong, I'm going to be wrong with a guy who I've liked the entire season or start of the season. So give me those 3 guys this year.
Yeah, a couple of honorable mentions I would put in there as well. Just to be clear, again, I normally say this, but honorable mentions are guys that maybe not scooped up in your typical leagues, but if you're looking later in the week, if you're looking to make ads after the fact, then these guys might be guys to pick up, particularly in deeper leagues, maybe 12 teams or more. I think Jamison Crowder is an interesting look. Just targets are there. And same thing with Zay Jones, like consistently getting around 6 targets. Not going to be your big volume guys, not guys you're feeling great about. But if you're in a pinch, you just need like some kind of guy to fill a spot, then that might be your best option, especially in those deeper leagues.
Right.
Getting into tight ends, I'm excited to hear who you have on here.
Foster Moreau, first and foremost. I think Darren Waller could potentially just be out for a season. No source on that, just a feeling, just because of how Raiders won the game. But I think that they might save him for the playoffs if they make that playoff push. I don't think that they'd risk. They're tied with, I think, the Colts for a hunt, or they're not. That's what this screen said.
Game up. They're 7-7.
Yeah, they're close. They're in the hunt, is what they said.
They are in the hunt.
They did beat Cleveland, which was also who are also in the hunt. But now game up on Cleveland. I mean, granted, Cleveland was missing 22 players, half their starters, but hey, we're not going to take it away from them nonetheless. So yeah, Foster Moreau had a good week. I think he's going to have another one. They are going to be playing. He had 9 targets. They're going to be playing Denver. So I think he could be in for another big target game there too. Second guy, Cole Kmet. He had 9 targets, and I think, Minnesota is top 10 in terms of fantasy points given to the tight end. And Cole Kmet, he's had his ups and downs, but I think if you're only going to be streaming tight end position, Cole Kmet getting 11, 7, 5, 9 in the last 4 games against good teams, Arizona, Green Bay, Minnesota. A weird feeling about him. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, I was on the Cole Kmet train early in the year. I don't mind Cole Kmet. Mm-hmm. I think that Tyler Conklin still had some disappointing weeks, but I feel okay picking him up. Obviously, there's
last night was a kind of a fluke. I mean, Kirk Cousins threw for under 100 yards. I'm almost positive for like the first time ever in his professional career. So last night was kind of a fluke. Just not what you expect week in, week out. I don't know. We're not going to hand Dalvin the ball 28 times a game.
Mama, there goes that man, James O'Shaughnessy. He put up 10 points, 4 for 60. Actually, his least targets that he's got in the game so far. But 4 to 6 targets, I'm fine with that. It's like a safety guy. Put you up like 6 points, 7 points. And then I think on the other side of the spectrum of that, a guy that I feel like if you have a really good team and you're slacking at the tight end position, a guy that might be a really interesting player to add is Hunter Henry, because he's an ultimate boom bust tight end. And I think that if you're in a spot where you have a Jonathan Taylor, or you have a couple of pieces that are going to like prop your team up, and you're still struggling to find that tight end piece. I bring this up because it's a situation that hits. Oh my goodness. I almost got into the female anatomy. It's a situation that hits close to home for me. And not the female anatomy, it's struggling to find a tight end. So I think that Hunter Henry could be an ultimate like guy in the playoffs where
Mhm.
if the rest of your team is figured out, 4 points isn't going to hurt you a ton, but 25-point game like he put up or a 19-point game like he put out a couple times this year could really put you over the edge.
Yeah, Hunter Henry's an interesting guy. He needs a touchdown to get you double digits.
Sure.
He got you 10.2 of a touchdown before, so not like a guy who is poised to have a good week. He got 2 touchdowns this week to get you the 25. Interesting guy. I mean, they're playing Buffalo, so they're going to have to score. It's going to be a tough defense. But last time we did see them play Buffalo, they threw the ball 3 times. So
that is
fingers crossed. I mean, hey, some people could have used that boom or bust week 13. That's all I gotta say. Some people could have needed it, just like they need it now. Fingers crossed, though, that New England doesn't run the ball 3 times again, or pass the ball 3 times again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a very certain, like, specific circumstance. I say, like, as a boom bust guy, but like, there's other positions where you're looking for guys that are like a boom bust guy too.
Mhm.
So if that position is tight end for you, then I
Right.
think that Hunter Henry could fit that mold. I agree with you that there are safer guys out there if that is what you're looking for, though.
Right.
So moving on into defenses and kickers.
Do you have any defenses and kickers, Kondo?
I do have some defenses. I wrote the Chargers down. Chargers have some good matchups. Who is it? They
Okay.
play obviously Houston this week, and then is it the Titans next week?
The Chargers play Houston, and I have no idea who else.
It's Houston. No, Houston, then Denver. Sorry. So still, I'm feeling pretty good about those 2 matchups to finish out the year.
Okay. I don't know who I really like right now because I'm trying to go. Maybe the Chiefs. Chiefs are playing Pittsburgh and then Cincinnati, so there's like a hopeful there. I don't know. I kind of like them, not all the way. Titans, week 17, I really like. I don't like them so much this upcoming week in San Francisco. So maybe Titans.
Eagles.
Eagles are a nice one, but at the same time, we saw them play the Giants before, and they got you 6 fantasy points. So that's just kind of a reason where I'm a little hesitant with them. They are going to be a good team, I think. So maybe the Eagles too.
Yeah, I mean Washington and then the Giants in the next 2, and then Washington again. But Washington this week without anybody, and then especially at the quarterback position, and then the Giants next week without a good chunk of people. So
yeah, I mean you can't go wrong with the Eagles, I guess.
Cool. And then no kickers?
Oh no, I always have kickers.
Okay.
Give me McPherson, just sure shot, baby, every single time. I'm going to mention someone I haven't mentioned, I don't think at all this year. Little known man named Dustin Hopkins. I don't know what you're doing.
Ow, that hurt.
That looked like it tickled.
Yeah, that did hurt. I don't know how I expected that to go better.
I think you expected it to be just like that.
I tried to like pull my leg back at the last minute to kick up, and I mean, you can't really tell. There's not a lot of room here to get my full 3 steps in. But Dustin Hopkins.
Yeah.
Ow.
Haven't mentioned him yet this year, and he is sneaking his way into the top 5. So I said, hey, I might as well hop on the train.
D-Hop train. Okay. The
D-Hop.
real D-Hop. Some
Exactly.
have said. That is it for our waivers discussion, I think. I don't think there's anybody else left for that. So let's get into questions. I see a lot of curse words. So you know what that means. 949 has entered the chat. I have Sanders up 23 points against OBJ and Cup. If I lose, I'm going to be upset.
I couldn't read it. Could you put it back on the?
No, I can't. I can't spread that type of profanity. This is a kids show.
But I don't think it's used in a profanity sense. I think he's just using it to describe
profanity
something.
is still profanity. I think it could be used.
No, profanity is all about perspective. Because if you're in the
from
hospital,
my perspective, it's not.
Well, from your perspective, you're just being a little girl. I don't know how to describe it to you.
I say that's slightly offensive. What's wrong with being a little girl?
The fact that you should be biology-wise a 23-year-old man.
I don't like where this conversation is heading.
I'm not the one saying I'm trying to be a little girl.
I didn't say I was trying to be a little girl. I said, what's wrong?
Exactly. That's you trying to justify it. That's like when you eat all the ice cream at home and then your mom's like, why'd you do all this? I don't know
what that has to do with swearing.
It has the same connotation.
But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the profanity.
Oh my goodness.
I like to use my mother fudgers or biscuits, just other kind of words. 23 Sanders up 23 points against OBJ and Cup. I never bet against Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp could get 23 points by himself.
Yeah.
So and OBJ is going to do pretty good. I mean, good luck. I wish you all the best in your endeavors here.
From your perspective, I would be saying, oh, fudge. But I wouldn't be saying it too loud because it's not I think it's going to be very close.
They're playing Seattle. Seattle, has been probably one of the worst teams in football.
I'm a Miles Sanders believer. I think that's probably where we differ.
Right. I'm a Miles Sanders believer, but Seattle has been one of the worst teams in football. If you lost to Seattle, your team's not that good, just is what it is. OBJ and Cooper Kupp, I don't think you're going to need that heavy of an involvement if the game goes kind of how it kind of should. I mean, they should get 2 or 3 drives, be up 21 points, and then Darrell Henderson and Sony Michel just run the clock out for you. So good luck with that. Wish you the best, Niner.
Projection-wise, Niner 49 is going to win. So
good job.
Yeah,
I hope so. I hope so.
And that one was profanity-free, so I do appreciate that. As is this one. Brady won 2 Super Bowls. He's the luckiest of all time. The rest of the defense and Bill gave him. Did Brady stop Mahomes, McVay, Kurt Warner, etc.? Brady has an imposing presence, and that may have stopped him.
I'm going to guess that since you said, did Brady stop Mahomes, McVay, Kurt Warner, and whoever ETC is, I'm going to guess since you asked it, he didn't. I'm going to go with you because you clearly have the information.
Okay.
Titans will get destroyed.
It's family friendly.
How is that not family friendly?
Because you can't say the S word, man.
What are you talking about now?
It's not appropriate. There's better word. There's just safer words to use. This is a kid's show. How would you feel if your kid came up to you and said, "Hey, buddy, F you"?
I'd be like, "Cool, F you, dude." I don't know. I don't know what you're supposed to.
That's the kind of relationship I want to have with my newborn son. Well,
I didn't say newborn.
You have a newborn son that just pops out and says "F you," because he was hearing
I'm going to be like, that's awesome. You're newborn. You can talk already. I'm going to make so much money off of you. Come here.
But what if he only spoke in curse words? Then you couldn't bring him
That's even funnier.
But you couldn't even bring him anywhere. You would get.
You could.
You would be constantly judged.
Kondo, if you're going to live your whole life in fear of what other people think, you are going to live a miserably sad life. You just need to go out there, rock your one-day-old kid who just says F you dog shit all day. I'm going to teach him how to say it in a Southern accent. He's just going to walk around. I'm going to hold him up above my head. So proud dad moment. And if
I'm not
people
a curse
stare,
word guy. I'm gonna be
yeah,
maybe Nancy negativity here and say
you are Big Nancy.
anti-curse word guy. I think
Actually,
that there's better words to use. I think honestly, one of the reasons I don't like curse words is because I think the non-curse words are more fun to say.
but I think, I don't know, whenever I hear a non-curse word, but people use it in the curse word sense, I always think like you're lying, not just to yourself, but to everyone
What do you
else.
mean
And
you're
you're
lying?
audibly saying, because everyone knows what you want to say, but one, you're too chicken shit to say it. Two, you're lying to yourself and you don't, you're not being true to yourself. And if you're not being true to yourself, you're clearly not going to be true to other people. So I think I just have a problem with, insincerity, deception, some of these things are just, once you start doing them, you just never stop. And I
It
just
would
feel like
be
it's trying to get
insincere of
petty.
me to use the F word.
Hey, 949 says I am a Christian. I love Jesus Christ. Actually, so
I don't know what that has to do with it, but I'm happy for you, I suppose.
hey,
That's
teach
if
their
that's
own.
what you're into.
Yeah, I want you to have all the religion or lack of religion you want. It's your
Yes,
life, dude.
that's your choice, and I'm glad you found a love in your life.
Hey,
So
yeah, we all can't be that lucky.
AJ Brown, if you have AJ Brown, you probably should have quit years ago.
I said weeks ago, not
Weeks
years
ago,
ago. Right.
weeks ago. Sorry. I was trying to pull it up. They are pretty now. The word is a little bit more uncertain on whether he will play this week. So yeah, like I don't even know anymore. Yeah, like 949 says last year was a red flag with the volume, low volume last year. He's gotten volume this year though. Like that's the thing that I think made it encouraging. It's just that one, he like hasn't been able to stay healthy, unfortunately, and two, and the Titans have just been fairly inconsistent, especially with like anyone else other than Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I mean, AJ Brown has 2 games below 5 targets this year, but he also has 2 games above 11 targets. So I mean, it's tough. He got injured. They brought in Julio Jones. That takes away some of your load. You work with Derrick Henry, the best back in the league, who now decided to start catching footballs and just made him even more of just a monster. Um, so yeah, it was tough. But the target volume has kind of been there. It's just that he's been inconsistent in catching the ball and also inconsistent in his health, which isn't really his fault. It's just kind of how it's been. Start two,
Horrendous.
sit. Start two, sit one. I don't know.
You're
I
starting
mean,
2 of these guys and you're sitting one of them.
I guess that's what happens when you say start two, my guy. Rendon's back though. Glad to see him
Brennan is
healthy.
back. I think that's something that we have to appreciate.
Yeah, I think I'm just glad he's healthy.
We're glad to have you back. Yes. We didn't know where you went. We didn't know about your safety, and we're happy that you're okay and you are here. Penny, Miles Sanders, Scary Terry. I'm probably not starting Terry. I'm sorry. Like I hate to say it. That's you don't know how much that pains me.
It doesn't pain Kondo at all. He has no heart apparently, because Scary Terry was his ride or die all year, and now like
I don't know
playoff
about my ride
time.
or die, but I did have him higher than most.
Yeah, I mean, Kondo likes to say he has him higher than most. Ride or die, what that translates to.
I don't think it does.
I definitely think it does. I like Miles Sanders. I'm not a big Scary Terry guy. Just full disclosure, not a big Scary Terry guy, but he has potential to have a good week. Miles Sanders for sure, but give me Penny. Scary Terry's. I'm gonna have to agree with Kondo, but if he goes off, it's gonna be one of those things like, of course, Scary Terry went off this week. Scary Terry. When everyone sits him, that's when he plays well.
Yeah, I mean, no, he's got Garrett Gilbert at quarterback. I looked up unless anybody tests out of the COVID protocols, which I haven't heard anything yet
I haven't
about.
heard anything either.
I am a Texas fan. Garrett Gilbert played at Texas. Garrett Gilbert then transferred to SMU. I'm sure Garrett Gilbert is a great guy, but he had 1 year in college where he threw for more touchdowns than interceptions. I am not feeling great about him at the professional level giving Scary Terry like a great fantasy day. Need 44.3 from Hertz and Penny tonight. Thoughts?
Need 44.3. That's going to be.
It'd be a lot.
That's a
But I don't
big
think it's like
task.
out of. I don't think it's out of the question, but it'd be a lot. Like obviously, we know that Hertz can go for a solid day, but I think that's a little. It's a little hefty, but I think you're not going into the night saying I have no chance.
You can't go in there saying you have no chance, but Jalen Hurts' average is 21. Rashad Penny's is not 23, just for quick math for everyone out here. So you'd have to have both these guys go for a way better game than the average. Can happen, potentially could happen if Jalen Hurts runs it for 2 touchdowns, and so does Rashad Penny here. It's going to be a tough one. I wish you the best of luck, Andrew. Not going to try to pronounce your last name, but good luck. It looks like Bree ones, like 3 ones, but Bree ones. Maybe it's Briannis. I don't know.
There are a couple options there. And that's what we get for trying.
Hey! You missed one. Come on now.
Well, it's I don't like the pro. I mean, this is kind of the same point.
No. You just don't like.
Well,
to say
I said that Kamara was going to average.
I was right. It's okay. You can just admit it.
I'm not saying you're right. 'Cause you're not right yet. I said that Kamara was going to average 20 points for the rest of the season. Still very well could happen. We'll see. That was a lofty goal that I since regret, but it is it is possible still. I have not lost that bet yet. Gaskin scored more fantasy points than Kamara. Yeah, I'm not. I mean, we both said
amen, brother.
Gaskin obviously way better than Kamara. So
I mean, if you're trying to win the week, Condo, 0.1 points is what's going to win or lose your week. As we saw in our own league, 6th place was decided by 0.4 points. Maybe from your high pedestal up there, you didn't, care about the common folk. But as a man,
that's 0.4, not 0.1.
Right, but Kamara, the difference is the same. It would have cost someone if they started Kamara over Gaskin this week, just like it would have last week.
Don't know.
Whew, good luck, Condo.
Who do we play week 16? 2 wide receivers, 1 running back, 1 flex, Deontay, Cooper, Gallup, St. Brown, Parker, Jacobs, Ronald Jones, Penny, Sony, Pollard. Thanks. No problem. Deontay is definitely one of them. And then I would say
I have mine if you
okay, you can go.
Deontay, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, 2 wide receivers. And then I'm going to go Ronald Jones, just because I think you're missing a lot of people in Tampa Bay, and Tony Pollard, just because he's been getting you very solid looks week in, week out.
I think I'm going with the same wide receivers, Deontay and Amon-Ra, and then we're going Ronald Jones. It's tough at the flex. I'm considering Pollard. He's in consideration. I think it depends on what Rashad Penny does tonight, because I mean that could have a lot of good signs. If he plays well against the Rams, then I wouldn't feel as worried about him going against Chicago. That Chicago defense actually looked pretty good yesterday, but I think I'm going to go. Depending on what you need, I might go Amari Cooper as like a boom bust guy, because it is a matchup where I think that he does have a chance to go off. It's a risky one. If that's what you need, I would go with that. If not, I don't mind Devontae Parker. hoping to see a good, decent game from Russell today in order to feel comfortable playing him next week. Yeah, I would agree. It's going to be interesting to see what Seattle does. It's going to be interesting to see what the Rams do, especially in that backfield as well. So, always be yourself, curse or not.
Hey, Smokey the cat said that, and I mean, if we listen to Smokey the bear, then we have to listen to Smokey the cat.
I think that's okay. Yeah, I agree with that. I can
Curse
be
every day.
be yourself guy, but then I don't think. Yeah, I think I'm okay with that. I just don't know, like, do you get in trouble for like showing swear words? I'm like can YouTube say like, hey, don't do that?
If you're getting monetized, you
Which
can like
we are
we
very
are far
clearly
from that. So I think but if you're getting monetized, I think people are gonna like can send you a message and be like, hey, only 15 FUs this episode. And you'd be like, oh, okay, I can do that. And then you get to keep your whatever money.
Well, I think the only reason we can do that is because I say fudged.
No, see, that's just back to, just being unauthentic.
No,
Deception.
it's authentic to me. Be
But
yourself.
it's not.
Be
No.
yourself, not be what Tony
I
tells you to be.
have heard you curse before. Like I have heard you say
Yeah, well, that's what happens when I get very, very upset. And that's just unnecessary. That we don't want that to happen. Down 19, I got Eagles D and Gibby, which I do love as a abbreviation for Antonio Gibson. Second take extra.
Yeah, second take extra. Great to see you. Missed you. Condos has been crazy today, dude. Full disclosure, I'm playing a guy who has the Eagles defense, and I need the Eagles defense to get underneath 9 points so I can crush this man. So, full disclosure, I hope Antonio Gibby over here gets you 25 and the Eagles D get you -3. Just full disclosure, but I'm hoping you win.
Yeah, I think that you should. Nothing wrong with cussing as long as you're. I'm glad that we're having a very in-depth conversation on this. Also, be respectful to your elders. Was that a demand, or was that just like another thing that we're putting out there?
Also, be respectful to your elders. Because he didn't mention it in the family and workplace. So.
Oh.
I mean, I work from home.
If your elders tell you not to cuss, and like that's going back to always be yourself, then that's like a real conflict of interest.
But if your elders cuss, then it's okay. This is how I look.
But what if they don't? What if they tell you don't curse? Or what if they tell you to curse? Then I think that's a problem too.
If they have never,
you're not being yourself.
Right. If they have never cussed, then you don't cuss around them. Just simple as that.
But then you're not being yourself.
Well, I can have a very civil conversation with my grandma about the weather and about flowers and about baking cakes without saying, about talking about the dog and what he's doing in the yard. All right. But if my grandma's watching football with me, she's going to hear a couple things come out of my mouth. This is what it is.
Started Kirk last night and won. Congrats.
Yeah. Good luck. Good job.
Rojo Pirine. Pirine is an interesting one as well. Gabe Davis. I don't think Gabe Davis is going to be like consistent. I'm not in on the Gabe Davis train.
Yeah, I'm not in on any one on that offense except for Allen, Diggs, and Knox. Full disclosure. Pirine. I don't think we mentioned Pirine.
No, we probably should have.
We mentioned handcuffs, and I feel like that's just kind of a give me.
Where is Pirine as far as roster?
Got to be close to the 50.
He's at 8.6.
So, yeah, right next to 50. Condo.
Definitely someone that we should have mentioned. Looks like Aaron Jones got 63% of snap count, so he is good. I mean, yeah, I'd take that from Aaron Jones. I don't even know what Aaron Jones did this week, which is not.
He played football. I mean, he got outscored by Duke. He got outscored by Duke Johnson. That's all everyone needs to know.
My predictions this season are 93% correct. That seems very good.
That seems better than not good.
Score prediction for tonight's game. I have no idea.
Which one?
Just one.
Well, if you only want one, I need to know which one.
Oh, I thought you said 1 was your score prediction.
Oh, I said which one. There's 2 games tonight, unless I'm mistaken.
It's all you.
Kirk disappointed me, Cody. Can you give me hope? Yeah, I can give you hope here real quick. I am the positive influence on this show. Kondo seems to be the negative Nancy as of late about Kirk Cousins, so
I didn't even say anything about Kirk
yeah,
Cousins.
see, that's the problem, Kondo. You didn't mention Kirk, okay? I mentioned Jonathan Taylor all the time for you, you know. So here's the thing about Kirk Cousins, okay? Still a top 8 fantasy quarterback. Are we going to hand the ball to Dalvin 28 times? No, we're not going to do that every single game. More than likely, just like 5 or 6 times a season. The Bears, for people who don't know, the Bears talk a lot of garbage, okay? They talk a lot of shit. Don't know if you've ever watched them mic'd up from a Bears player. Fun fact, you probably haven't, because they just, say despicable things in the mud down there. So the Vikings, being the honorable people that they are, said, hey, we're just going to run the ball with Dalvin, give it to the big, scary, most dominant back healthy in the league right now. And we're just going to let him run through people and bang them up. All right. So Kirk said, I like it. Can I throw 2 touchdowns for the boys? We said, hey, we'll give you 2 touchdowns for the boys. Dalvin, you're just going to go out there. You're going to run people into the ground for being so mean to everyone all year. That's what we did. Kirk's going to turn it around. We're playing the Rams in Green Bay. They're nicer people. I mean, against Green Bay, Kirk Cousins dropped a 25-point bomb already this year. So, you got to have a lot of faith and hope in them. Yeah, I mean, don't let one game where we had to beat up the bullies discourage you from Kirk Cousins.
You guys think Mitchell plays? Cody is very much.
I think they sit him this week. I mean, he has a knee problem and a concussion, so I'm just not. That's double trouble starting for the next week.
Yeah, I think it's very much up in the air. I'm not feeling as encouraged as the Niners are.
Yeah.
Both games. What score? I don't know about score predictions.
All right, Seattle versus the Rams. I think Rams win. I want to say Rams by. I want to say Rams by 10. Give me like 24-14. Rams. Washington Eagles. Give me Eagles. Give me Eagles by 10, but I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think it's going to be like 18-8. I think it's going to be a low in there. Oh, yeah. I think
double eights.
Well, I think it's going to be 2-point conversion. They're going to be like, oh, man, we can get them back. It's going to be a late score, like the second half, and they're going to be like, we're going to go for 2. They're going to go for 2, and then they're not going to score the rest of the time.
I think
it's going to be close.
27-20 Rams.
Nice.
And I'm going to go actually just 1 point difference to yours and say 17-7 Eagles.
A 17, huh? That's going to stop them one random drive and say
a touchdown.
Touchdown, field goal, touchdown. I understand how you get 17.
Or touchdown, field goal. Or could even go field goal, touchdown.
You could also go field goal, touchdown. Safety. Yeah.
I don't need math.
Sorry, touchdown. No,
I think you're right. It doesn't matter.
Well, no, it's field goal, touchdown, safety. HG 17.
That, I think, pretty much just sums it up with a little quick math for us today.
We are pretty good at math. Kondo has a PhD in mathematics. Not sure what that has to do with anything, but, he's smart.
9-49. Seattle will shut down OBJ and Cup.
Wow.
9-49 does play against OBJ and Cup, if I do remember correctly. So
he does, I believe.
But I don't sense any bias in this. So
I mean,
He's
That's-
been right on 93% of his season predictions.
This is either going to be either the 93% he's right or the 7% he's wrong, which would then probably turn into 8%. This seems like a big one. Combined for less than 75 and no touchdowns? That's insane.
I'll let you go first, Cody.
What is your favorite math prof or proof?
I've never heard anybody say prof on it before.
Well,
That certainly doesn't make us seem like the math guys that you claimed that we were.
well, no, I don't know if he means like prof, like professor, but I assume
Well, it's
he means.
spelled proof.
Oh, okay, then I like the proof of contradiction. That's probably my favorite one.
I'm just a big evidence guy. You know, I'm a big numbers guy. I like to see the proof. So
You know what that is? There? I don't think there is one for.
I think that was my answer.
Well, yeah, but I don't think that is like a real thing.
What?
There's
I like
three
to, I
types-
like to
there's-
see the numbers. I like to see what
Yeah,
happened.
but there's
I like
three
to- I
types
like-
of proofs, though.
Yeah, it's the evidence. That's my favorite proof.
No.
That
it's
is
not one. It's not one of them.
that is our show.
It's not one of them.
Yeah, I mean it could be multiple. If
It's
you want
direct proof of
Oh.
contradiction, and proof of induction, I believe. If I have it,
I think
right.
evidence could be all of them.
No, because that's not one. There's like three. That's like saying chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, and then you say like cookies and cream. Like it's not one of the options.
That is
It's
our
not-
show today. Thank you for watching. We will be back on Sunday for the Start Sit Show, as always, or at least the last 3 weeks or 2 weeks, going on 3 weeks. Best of luck tonight for everybody wrapping up week 15, and we will see y'all Sunday.
See y'all then.